Morning everyone. This is a little earlier recording than I usually do in the day, but I've got a bit to get through in this particular one. There's a few things from the Daily Mail I need to get through, a few articles, go back to the old format. And one thing that's patently obvious is that the Daily Mail, as well as the Murdoch press, they're all in lockstep at the moment, and they seem to be basically anti-Trump. And it's just extraordinary. Since this election, I have noticed the press has gone feral, and I think it'll only hurt them. And what I have coming up, the first article, is actually regarding Tucker Carlson. So that's interesting, because I think Tucker Carlson is going to be in a very invidious position, fronting a show on Fox News, which is the Murdoch network, which is basically showing its true colours at the moment, and basically they're in lockstep with the globalists. Remember, this is the same network that employed Donna Brazil, who was the person feeding questions. She was caught feeding questions to Hillary Clinton, and yet she still becomes a commentator on Fox News. It's a bit of a worry. I have some breaking news before I get into the first article. I don't want to waffle too long because it's hard for me not to, but I'll try not to. The news is from Tim Pool. Tim Pool is a prolific YouTuber, and he used to work as a journalist in different countries, in war zones and what have you, in dodgy situations. He's got a journalistic background. He's also worked for online organisations, but he's gone out on his own the last few years and very happy with the situation. But here's breaking news about Michigan, the vote in Michigan. Apparently, there's been a software glitch found, and it looks as though it's underestimated. In one county alone, around 5,000 Trump votes. Of course, this will be regarded as conspiracy theory stuff by the mainstream media, who just don't want to hear anything anti-Biden at the moment. It's extraordinary what's happening with the press. They, like I say, they've gone feral, they've gone censorship with anything anti-Biden, and it's a real worry. And thank God we've got Trump, and they're really fighting hard for his own rights and going to go to court and going to get down, get dirty, and really make these bastards work for every one of these corrupt votes that are being counted. I mean, I've got so little faith in the system right now. But getting back to this particular software glitch, apparently there's 42 counties in Michigan that uses this particular software. Tim Pool wasn't sure how widely this was used, but he thinks it's a fairly widespread use right throughout the country. And if that's the case, the whole election is becoming a total scam. And, it makes sense when you consider that the Republicans are doing very well in the House of Reps, are making up seats, and have only lost one seat in the Senate. It just smells to high heaven that something fishy has been going on in these states that are the swing states. It just stinks to high heaven, as I've said before. Anyway, look, that's enough of me doing the preamble rave. I'll get on into this article about Tucker Carlson, which is interesting. It's from the Daily Mail, so take it all with a grain of salt. I've lost faith in all of the media. The printed media. Okay, I'll just get into it anyway. It's possible the media will decide to shut this election down. Tucker Carlson warns against censoring coverage of drawn-out presidential count and pleads, let the system work. Fox News anchor said, shutting down the legitimate discourse destroys social trust. Yesterday, several networks cut away from Donald Trump's White House address. Carlson suggested these broadcasters are duty-bound to air concerns of fraud. Well, his own network was very tardy in announcing any of the states that Trump had won, but was spot on with putting anything that went Biden's way, and even gave Arizona to Biden before it had actually been properly counted. So keep that in mind, Tucker. Carlson said that although the process 20 years ago was excruciating and it was proper to wait before it was called, he said, for the record, the news organisations in this country covered every moment of it. No one in any newsroom in America ever considered censoring information about what was happening. That would have been regarded as grotesque and immoral. And immoral it certainly is, and right now it is widespread throughout the mass media in the US. Then, as now, almost everyone in the media was a partisan Democrat. But in 2000, they understood that preserving the public's faith in the system was more important than getting Al Gore or anyone else into the White House. Well, boy, has that changed. They don't give a stuff what the American public think now. They don't give a stuff about credibility because they don't have any. It's just chaos. So they pushed for openness and transparency in the process. And thank God they did. Trump has already demanded a recount in Wisconsin after coming within 1 percentage point of Biden. Recounts could also be triggered automatically in Georgia and Pennsylvania, where the race is razor tight. Protests around the country have flared up in the remaining battleground states, with Trump supporters yelling, "Stop the count." By the way, there's also left-wing protests taking place in the usual areas. And you think, well, they're in a position where their man might become president. You'd think they'd be happy, but nothing placates these people. Okay, Carlson warned that these Trump loyalists will likely not accept the election if it is declared by media outlets that have not given coverage to their grievances. He said it's entirely possible now that someday, soon, the news media will decide to shut this election down. Believe it or not, they effectively have the power to do that. But he said they should pull back, resist hasty calls. You'd make certain that we get the bottom of any credible claim of fraud. Not all the claims are credible, but some are. Yeah, but that's the thing. Any claims of fraud are treated with derision by the media. It is so sus. They will not give an inch to anyone on the Trump side. It is really worrying. You would air them. You would air the hanging chads. You let the process work as it did in 2000. So that's a bit of common sense from Tucker Carlson. But again, I think Tucker is in for a bit of a battle of his own. So we'll see how that turns out. Donald Trump tweets at 2:22. This again is Daily Mail, on claiming his election observers were banned from the polls after his own lawyers admitted to federal judge that watchers were allowed in. President Trump, in a 2:22 a.m. tweet, complained his election observers were not allowed to watch ballot counting. There appears to be two stories here. The press keeps saying that no, they got access, but we're hearing from the Trump side that that is not the case. And I think I know who I'd rather believe at this stage. But his lawyers conceded to a Philadelphia judge that they had people in the room. The observers were not allowed in any way, shape or form to do their job, and therefore voters accepted during this period must be determined to be illegal, Trump tweeted. Twitter flagged his tweet for having inaccurate information. Trump campaign lawyer told Judge President's team did have election observers in the room to watch mail-in ballots be counted in Pennsylvania. I'm sorry, then what's your problem? Said the US District Judge Paul Diamond. Trump lawsuit was dismissed. Again, I don't believe a damn word I hear at the moment. If the press is saying one thing, I believe the other. President Donald Trump, in an early morning Twitter rage, see, get the emotive language here. This is the sort of thing that they're trying to discredit Trump with, and they'll couch all these comments with this emotive sort of speech. Complained his election observers were banned from watching votes being counted, even as his own lawyer conceded to a Philadelphia judge that the campaign had people in the room. Trump complained about the election tallies in a 2:22 a.m. tweet that twigged as having incorrect information, accusation, blah, blah, blah. I easily won the presidency of the United States with legal votes cast. The observers were not allowed in any way, shape or form to do their job, and therefore votes accepted during this period must be determined to be illegal. Votes US Supreme Court should decide, Trump wrote, and the Twitter was flagged. A minute later, the president added, Twitter is out of control, made possible through the government gift of Section 230, which I presume is the one that allows them to act as if they're not a publisher and therefore can't be sued. I think those days are numbered for, especially for Twitter and the rest of big tech. But Trump's campaign lawyer conceded to a Philadelphia judge on Thursday that the president's team did have election observers in the blah, blah, blah. Okay, so we're going back and forth with this. The Trump campaign was trying to get an injunction to halt the vote counting in Philadelphia, a heavily Democratic area that was expected to add to Joe Biden's vote total. Well, actually, the Republicans have done very well in this election, so I wouldn't be assuming anything like that. It was I think it's called Day County in Florida, which was a traditional liberal stronghold. I think Trump won the majority of votes in that particular county. So there you go. So don't give me that BS. They've argued their observers had been unfairly barred from the parts of the city ballot counting area, including the Pennsylvania Convention Center. But under the other, we've already done this. The Trump campaign has launched a series of lawsuits in battleground states as the presidential election inches towards a winner. Biden has gained ground in Pennsylvania. Well, big surprise considering what the dodgy nature of the vote, the count, I should say. As the state counts its mail-in ballots, millions of votes used that option due to the coronavirus pandemic. Democrats used the mail-in option more than Republicans. Biden encouraged Democrats to vote earlier, and Trump encouraged his supporters to vote on Election Day. Even though there were plenty of Republican pre-votes as well, mail-in votes, but not as many as Democrats you would think, but a substantial number. So you wouldn't expect like 100% Biden votes, as that dodgy group of votes were found in one of the elections. I think it was in Wisconsin. Just unbelievable. Trump leads by about 18,000 votes in Pennsylvania, with roughly 163,000 mail-in ballots still statewide, which includes more than 58,000 in the heavily Democratic Philadelphia. And the state is expected to release another tranche of votes on Friday morning. Biden overhauled Trump's lead in deep red Georgia in the early hours of Friday as mail-in ballots were counted, carving out a lead of 917 votes that grew to 1,096 votes as the morning went in. There are around 10,000 votes left to count, with a further trend in Biden's favour expected. If Trump can't carry Georgia, he has no path to the 270 votes needed to win the White House. A Democrat last won Georgia in 1992 presidential election, and it would be a serious flip if Biden carries it. If Biden takes Georgia, then he only needs to hold his lead in either Nevada or Arizona, where he is currently ahead by 11,000 votes and 46,000 votes respectively, to be declared the winner. Results in both states are expected later today. Trump continues to fight for a second term, making unsubstantiated allegations of election fraud. Well, there's a great unbiased article for you, Daily Mail. I wonder which side of the political fence you guys sit on. The president renewed those attacks on Thursday night in his first TV appearance since Election Day itself, when he called the entire presidential election into question, claiming it was rigged against him from start to finish by a vast conspiracy. And I would have to 100% agree. All the signs are leading to that conclusion. Apparently George Soros has pumped $34 billion into the Democrats' campaign. I mean, it's hard to fight that sort of momentum when you've got that much finance behind you. Guy's a scumbag. He claimed that if all legal votes were counted, he would win the election, as charged Democrats with trying to steal the contest corruptly through mail-in ballots. All three broadcast networks, ABC, CBS and NBC, cut away from the press conference before it finished. Unbelievable. I mean, you could comment on him negatively, which no doubt all of those networks would do, but just to cut the feed, I mean, this is still the President of the United States, the most powerful politician in the world, and these assholes think they can just basically censor his speech. This is unbelievable. They warned viewers that Trump had made a number of false statements that needed clarifying. So again, they're the final arbitrator of what is truth. Give me a break. Biden also gave a speech Thursday calling for calm and patience while the votes are counted. insisting once again that when the dust has settled, he will have beaten Trump. Democracy is sometimes messy. It sometimes requires a little patience. And, well, the former vice president said from the stage of Wellington's Queen Theatre late Thursday afternoon. Biden is a mediocre politician at best. He's lost a lot of his contests that he's actually gone into in the past. So it makes it even more fishy that he could actually beat a juggernaut like Trump. Not legitimately, that's for sure. Biden also tweeted, "No one is going to take our democracy away from us." How ironic him saying that. Not now, not ever. America has come too far, fought too many battles, and endured too much to let that happen. Oh, God. Keep the faith, folks. Oh, give me a break. Meanwhile, Donald Trump Jr. gave a speech in Georgia where Trump's lead is now just a few hundred votes, calling for his father to fight to the death and urging him to go to war to expose all the fraud that has been going on for too long. I think they needed to do a bit more groundwork prior to the election. That's why they're getting this tsunami of BS cars going over them. They really needed to attack the Democrats earlier. Americans need to know that this is not a banana republic, and right now very few people have faith that that's not the case. Totally agree. At the podium in the briefing room on Thursday night, President Trump read from a script and listed his grievances as Biden campaign: suppression, pills and fraud. He left without taking a question as CNN White House reporter Jim Acosta shouted, "Are you a sore loser?" Acosta, you have zero credibility. You are a loudmouth moron. You know, I mean, you really. I think a lot of journalists are embarrassed to be in the same profession as Acosta. Give me a break. Then his press secretary, Kayleigh McEnany, had to scuttle back to the podium because he had forgotten to take his notes with him. Anyway, look, I'll probably rave to way long enough. I usually go overboard. And but I hope you found those articles of interest. There's quite a bit of news today, and it's just going to continue on. As I say, that little tidbit from Mr. Poole is certainly a big update that I haven't read anywhere else. So fingers crossed. I'll keep looking at the news during the day and getting updates, and I think there'll be plenty of material for me to present to you tomorrow. I'll probably take Monday off, so I'll make sure I get a video out to you tomorrow. Keep the thumbs up, thumbs downs going. Keep those comments coming in, and please consider subscribing and consider pushing the button, the dollar button on my Bitchute sites, and then you can actually donate some money to me. It'll just cover my costs for keeping two channels going on Bitchute. And the subscriptions there are very slowly going up on about one per day, but it's better than going backwards. So look, have a great day. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I'll catch up with you probably early afternoon tomorrow.